Captain's Log, October 6. October 6, 2021. This is Kevin here from Happy Beard Games. And you're watching Chris, the old-ass retro gamer. The coolest retro gamer in the quadrant.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome. Welcome to another Video Game Collection 2023 live stream. I'm in a weird mood, guys. I'm tired yet well rested. So it's going to be an interesting I almost called it a podcast. It's going to be an interesting live stream. Yep. Prepare yourself. So today I'm going to be talking all about my Game Boy Color games in my collection currently. Not one of my biggest collections, to be completely honest. This is actually probably going to be we've been doomed from the start. This is probably going to be one of the shorter streams in this series because I only have about 32 games for this console. I don't know what it's called. For me, it's just odd. Like I'm kind of foggy, but my brain is working at full capacity. It's just weird. But anyway, welcome Waves and Games. Welcome Peter. Welcome Mondane. How's it going? Hope your week has been awesome. Mine has not, but whatever. Tomorrow is Friday, which means the weekend is coming. Hooray. Anyway, so I say this in every one of my streams, and Mondane's probably going to give me shit for it. Why do I do these streams? Good content for the channel. It's fun. Get to talk to everybody. And good to have a visual record of everything in your collection, just in case, an event happens and you need proof of life, or in this case, games. What would Marcus do? Marcus would take the high road. We don't know him very well yet, but we'll find out in a couple weeks. Yes, we will. Anyway, so what is my history with the Game Boy Color? So I think I talked about it a little bit in the original Game Boy live stream, where there was a point where when we first got our Game Boy, my brother and I both got a Game Boy for Christmas, and I think it was 89, and it was the coolest thing ever. We were playing essentially NES games in the palm of our hand, kind of gimped NES games, but it was it wasn't a Tiger Electronics handheld thing. This was actually a cartridge with a video game with a beginning, middle, and an end, in it that we could play in our hands for hours on end. Yeah, it was hard to see. Yeah, the battery life was, all right. But we thought it was the coolest thing ever. And then as the years went by, it just sort of petered off. We just sort of steadily lost interest in it. I got that job at Kmart when I was a junior in high school. I was buying games for it then, but mid to late 90s, I could give a crap. I had a Game Gear in the early 90s. I had a Lynx in the early 90s, and I think I just kind of OD'd on handheld consoles completely. I just did not give a shit anymore. So the Game Boy Color comes out, and I think I was still working at the limousine place at this point. And I just could give a crap. I could give two shits about it. I was I know a couple of my friends were like, ew. And I was like, no. But then I don't remember. Honestly, this is one of those weird things where my memory of this is completely gone. But there had to have been a game or something that made me say, I need that now. I do not for the life of me remember what that was. It might have just been hey, I've been away from handheld games for so long. I think it's time I come back to it. It could have been that. I don't remember. I just remember one day I just went to Funkoland and I bought a freaking Game Boy Color. I just did. I don't know what set it off or anything. It's just that memory has been completely erased from memory. So your guess is as good as mine. I cannot remember anything. But anyway, I don't remember if I bought any games right off the bat. I do remember I was playing the original. I had Pokemon Blue, the blue cartridge that I was playing on that. It might have been that. Maybe I got rid of my original Game Boy. I don't remember when I got rid of it. It might have been that I had gotten rid of my Game Boy. My buddy Brian was playing Pokemon obsessively. He was always talking about it. I was like, maybe I think it might have been that was what it was. He talked about it to the point where I got interested in it. I bought Pokemon Blue. That might have been why I bought the Game Boy Color. I don't even remember if I was playing my brother's Game Boy. I don't remember what he did with his, but whatever. Not important. Anyway, I do remember playing my Pokemon Blue on my Game Boy Color. We went to the local mall. Nintendo came, and they were giving away copies of, I think it was Mew. It was either Mew or Mewtwo, and you can only get it from them. And I waited in line for 2 hours with all these little kids. I felt like a freaking pedo. I'm like this adult in this line of little kids waiting to get their little Pokemon installed on their cartridge kind of thing. It was really awkward, and I really hated it. But I do remember the game that ended up becoming my favorite is one that you would not expect on this thing. I bought it and I was playing it every waking moment. I was making excuses when I was at work at that limousine place to go and hide in the bathroom and sit on the shitter pretending I was dropping a deuce just so I could play this for 15 minutes kind of thing. No, it was not a Bug's Life. But anyway, so it's not one of my favorite consoles. I didn't have it for very long because by the time I bought this, and I want to say it was probably 1999 when I bought it. Yeah, it was probably 1998, 1999. And I got rid of it the moment the Game Boy Advance came out. I was like, well, this plays my Game Boy Color games. I don't need this console anymore. So I got rid of it immediately. So I only had it for maybe 2 years. I enjoyed it quite a bit, but out of all of the handheld consoles that I've had over the years, including right now, it always had the smallest library that I've ever had for a handheld console. I had more Lynx games than I had Game Boy Color games back in the day. Top Gear Pocket 2? No. Sorry. So let's get into the games. I do have one import, which I did have back in the day, and that is a Mania GB, or Mania Game Boy. Like I've talked about plenty of times already, I love rhythm games, and I have a shit ton of Mania games for the PlayStation 1. So naturally, when I found out that I could play it in the palm of my hand on the Game Boy Color, I went out and looked for a copy, ended up finding one. So this was like after. I don't even think I had a Game Boy Color at this point because eBay wasn't a thing yet in the 90s. So it was like in the, I want to say 2002, 2003-ish. I found this on eBay while I was at work. I think I was on my lunch break or something. I found this on eBay and I bought it, and I was playing it on my Game Boy Advance. And it's a gimped version of Beatmania because in order to play it, so you had the keyboard, the 5 keys of a piano, and then you have the mixing deck, the record that you scratch, right? And you can kind of see how it's set up. It's set up just like the original one. And you had to use the left button on the directional pad for the first key of the keyboard, the up button on the directional pad for the second, the right button on the directional pad for the third key, the select button for the fourth key, the start button for the fifth key, and the A and B buttons were the record scratching, and you had to go back and forth between it to make it scratch. So you go like one A B A B A B A B A B A B A B, and it would do the back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. It was really awkward. It took a long time for me to get used to, but eventually I did, and I was bringing this to work at my old job that I got laid off from in 2011. I used to play it there all the time, and it's pretty fun. It doesn't have full motion video or anything like that for the little distraction video that's on that screen next to your play field kind of thing. But it's pretty cool and has a couple of the tracks that I really liked from the arcade version of Beatmania that I was playing at GameWorks all the time. They're like just chiptune versions of it, but it's fun. I mean, for like a to-go version of Beatmania, it's pretty cool. I should probably look to see if there's any more of these Bimani games available on the Game Boy Color. Like maybe there's a Guitar Freaks one or something like that. I don't know. I'll have to look it up. But I really like the fact that I found this. I should probably look into some more import because this is a lot smaller than your typical American Game Boy Color game box. It's slightly less tall and a lot thinner, so it's interesting. Whatever. I always wonder what makes like game companies like Nintendo release 2 different shaped boxes for the games. Like the GameCube games, or the one in particular that are like effed up. It's like in America we got like a DVD case, snap case, and in Japan it was like a piece of plastic that held the disc, and it was like a cardboard sleeve that went over it. It was weird, but whatever. But that's the only import game I have. I thought the black carts were Game Boy Color games. Then they eventually went clear. Or are the black ones the one that work on both Game Boy and Game Boy Color? I don't remember. It's impressive. It's a little awkward. Anyway, I should probably talk about the fact that I actually do own a Game Boy Color. And I have one of the atomic purple ones. This is not my original one. An employee who I did not get along with at my current job. I could not stand the guy to save my life. I thought he was one of the worst people I've ever met. For some reason, he decided to try to make a peace offering with me by giving me his old Game Boy Color that he found in his garage or something. The only thing was, when he gave it to me, it looked like he had shoved it up his ass. It was covered in what looked like poop. And I looked at it when he gave it to me, and I was just like, I'm not touching that. And he's like, it's not what you think it is. It's just been sitting in the garage. It's just covered in gunk. I was like, yeah, like your own diarrhea. But it didn't have the back cover for the battery cover, or it didn't have the battery cover. I ended up buying this off of eBay to complete it. And surprisingly, as in the bad condition that it was, it actually works. The one that I had back in the day was I think it was the teal blue Game Boy Color. It was one of the first ones. There was like 5 or 6 colors that came out for the original launch, and I bought the teal blue because blue's my favorite color, so I had to get that one. Yeah, because it's in the colors that were available are the colors in color, so I had the R. And I don't use this very often. When I want to play a Game Boy Color game, I just pop it into my Retro Freak and play it on my television. But anyway, yay. Still sucks that this was not backlit. Yeah, it's in color. It's still hard as hell to see unless you're like in the exact right light. Like right now, I could probably play it pretty decently. But it also has what I thought was kind of cool was instead of hooking up 2 Game Boy Colors by cable, if you want to play like a multiplayer game, it has like an infrared sensor to send information back and forth, which is kind of neat, I guess. But it does have a port for the cable. It must be for the original Game Boy games because this is backwards compatible. What's up, J-Chip? How's it going? Welcome. The black ones can play on the black and white systems. What are you talking about? The black and white systems? Anyway, so these are all the games that I currently have in my collection. I was trying to get the ones that I had back in the day, and I do have, I want to say 1, 2, 3, 4. I want to say 5 of the games that I had back in the day. Honestly, that might have been the amount of games I had because like I said, I did not have a lot of games for this console. I might have had maybe 5 or 6 total back then. But even when I am buying them to make a collection, this is still less than I have for any of my other handheld consoles. Black carts play on both OG and color Game Boys. The clear ones were the convex bumper. Oh, yeah, that's what I thought they were. Yeah. Okay. I got you. Am I going to get an analog pocket? No. No. Anyway, here are the games I currently own. Starting off with 007, The World Is Not Enough. Gotta have my licensed games. You know this. So I'm going to talk about this, especially during the Game Boy Advance streams. That when you have games that are ports for these handheld consoles that come from the original like consoles, like World Is Not Enough was available on the PlayStation 1 and the N64. They are first-person shooters. How do you do that on a Game Boy Color, which is essentially a Nintendo? You turn it into an isometric or 2 or 3/4 view, like adventure-style game. And that's exactly what the Game Boy Advance, a lot of those games turned into. Here is one of those examples. So you can see that it is like a top-down Legend of Zelda Metal Gear Solid style, like action espionage type game. I can't talk. It's actually pretty fun. I didn't think this was going to be any good. Like I said, I did not play a whole lot of Game Boy Color games back in the day, so I never had a chance to try this one out. I picked it up because I was trying to get all the Bond games. I'm still trying to get all the Bond games. I was looking into buying one for the Atari 2600 today. Holy shit, is that game expensive. I am not paying $300 for that. No. Anyway, so yeah, I picked this one up. I want to say pretty early on in collecting, because Bond game collecting, and it's not too shabby. It is like playing a Metal Gear Solid game, just with the Bond license attached to it. It's pretty cool. I like it a lot. Next up is another one that I had like a collecting goal that I was going towards, and that is to get all the games based on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, because that's one of my favorite television shows of all time. So Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I don't think this one actually has a subtitle. Yeah, I don't think this one does. I thought it did. Or not. Whatever. I know the Game Boy Advance one does. Anyway, so I remember seeing this at my local, I think it was my Software Etc. I remember seeing it sitting there all the time whenever I would go to that store. And back then, I was a little more picky about the licensed games I was buying. Nowadays, I'm willing to try anything because you never know which one is going to be good and which one's going to be bad. So back then, I remember I saw this on the shelf and I was like, that is not going to be good. And then you take a look at the back and I was like, yeah, it's definitely not going to be good. Because you look at that little cinema down there that looks like absolute trash. It looks like somebody drew it on MS Paint. And the graphics just look absolutely horrendous. And the thing is, when I picked this up, this was not a cheap game. All the Buffy games for the handheld consoles ended up becoming kind of collector's items. So this one took a little doing to get into my collection. And sad to say that this was not a good game. The controls are wonky. The graphics are terrible. It feels like it was put together in the space of a week. Like the environments are garbage. The play control, the fighting mechanics, everything about it is just pretty terrible. It's like a beat 'em up platformer when you're playing as Buffy, and it's not good, like at all. Like everything about it just looks like trash. This is one of those games when you hear somebody say like all licensed games are crap, they probably played that. It saddens me to say it, but I mean, as much as I love Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel and that universe, that game is the Duke. Here's one that I had to buy. I never had this one back in the day, but when I found out what it was, I was like, I need it immediately. And I found a copy that is still sealed. I have not opened this, so I cannot tell you if it's good or not. But I like the fact that it's sealed. I wonder if I could actually sell this and get some mint for it. But it's Commander Keen. I bought this one pretty early on in collecting. I don't know if it's risen up in price. I should probably check. But if you see that it's got the little id logo there, this was one of the first games I think id ever did before they even did Doom and Castle Wolfenstein. Commander Keen is a platformer that was, I think, a shareware game on like the old computers on PC. And eventually it got a port to the Game Boy Color. I did not know this existed back in the day. So while I was putzing around on eBay one day at work and I saw this, I was like, is that what I think it is? And then I checked it out, and sure enough, it's the port of that old shareware game, and that is absolutely insane. And the fact that I got a really cheap copy that is legit still sealed. Let me take this out of the case. I have these shitty cases I need to swap out because this one has like a little latch on it that I need to open. What's up, Retro Coop? How's it going? Welcome. God damn it. So, yeah, you can see it's still sealed and everything. So I have never opened this, so I cannot tell you if it is good or not. But yeah, that's just, I had no freaking clue that this was available. And another game that's coming up too, I did not know was available either. Just putzing around on eBay some days and you find some interesting stuff. What's up, Shining Blue? Whoa, Shining Blue's here. Oh my God. So thrilled about that. I might look into getting rid of that. Maybe getting an open copy for myself. Had to get this because it's by Rare. Rare is my favorite developer of all time, even though I hear this one isn't the greatest game ever, but it's based on a character I really like. So why not? And that's Conkers Pocket Tales. Sorry, there is no singing pile of diarrhea like in the Nintendo 64 game, and he is not getting violently drunk and puking all over the place. But yeah, this is a top-down Legend of Zelda-style adventure game with Conker in it. It is a very child-friendly game. You can see it's got the E for everyone. This is like censored. And it's okay. Radical Reggie and I talked about this a little bit in a stream that we did together. I think we did a video over Skype where we're talking about pickups, and we ended up talking about this one a little bit. And he really liked it, and I tried it out when it first showed up, and I really enjoyed what I played. I just didn't have enough time to sit through and play the entire thing. But it is pretty cool that we have a Conker game that is not just Conker's Bad Fur Day. We need to bring this character back and give him more games because Conker is awesome. This is the other one that I had no clue existed on this console until I started putzing around on eBay one day at work. And that's Duke Nukem. What? I had no clue there was a Duke Nukem game on this console. And what's cool about this is, just like Commander Keen, this was made before the Duke Nukem that we knew was a thing, before the first-person shooters. Because this is the shareware Duke Nukem game, which was, just like Commander Keen, a run-and-gun platformer starring Duke Nukem, which is awesome. I had no clue we got a port of this to this console, so I snapped it up. So I remember I was talking in the original Game Boy stream when I was always looking to find I was always looking for a copy of Alien 3 complete in box for the Game Boy, and every time I would find one that was really cheap on eBay, well, there was one on eBay that had been sitting there for months at the same price, and I'd always be like, well, since it's been here for so long, I'm pretty sure it's not going to sell. Nobody looks like they're interested in it. I'll get this other thing, which I'm pretty sure will sell if I don't snatch it up. This was one of the games I passed over Alien 3 to get. And then I want to say the next time I went looking for Alien 3, which is probably a couple of weeks after I bought this, that Alien 3 was gone. Oh no, the guy raised the price like by about $100. That was what it was. eBay Tales. Anyway, yeah, it's a decent game. It's not the greatest thing ever. Like I said, it's an old shareware PC game, but whatever. It's cool to have. Duke Nukem, pre-Duke Nukem, prepubescent Duke Nukem is best Duke Nukem. No, not really. He's like a pink color. He was nuclear. Yeah, I remember playing this on my Retro Freak, and it's okay. It's definitely like you could see why they were like, hey, let's make it a first-person shooter instead because we weren't great at programming this piece of shit. Duke Nukem is like Doom. It's on everything. Yep. This is another one I bought right before I had that stream with Radical Reggie, and we ended up both talking about this game also. I knew nothing about it. I bought it because it was cheap, and it's by Nintendo. So that's Hamtaro, Hams Unite. I knew nothing about this Hamtaro series. Apparently, there's a bunch of games in this franchise. And I thought it was kind of like a Pokemon-style thing, but or like a Tamagotchi kind of thing, which is probably why I avoided it for so long. But it turns out it's like a little adventure game. Sure. Look at how adorable he is with the big anime eyes. But yeah, according to Radical Reggie, this is like one of his favorite games of all time. So like when we started talking about it, I was like, okay, well, I'm glad I bought a copy of it when I did because now it's probably super expensive. But I still have not played this at any length, so I cannot say if it is good or not. I have not played any of these games at great length, as you probably already can tell. Low-key good. I'm glad I have at least one. I know there's a couple of them. Pokemon Black 2, the price shut up and I was mad at yourself for not picking it up. I have no idea if it was a show or not, Peter. I don't know. I was not paying attention. I don't think I ever really watched Cartoon Network back in the day until like the Clone Wars cartoon showed up on Cartoon Network. That was probably the first time I ever actually sat down. This one I bought because it was like $5 on eBay and I was trying to build a collection. So don't blame me. But then it turns out that Radical Reggie has a copy of this too, and he made a big deal when I told him that I bought it. He was like, oh no, that game is actually kind of awesome. It's just stupid name and like the cover is garbage. But it's actually worthwhile, and it's called Hands of Time. That is the dumbest art ever. It's like an aiming reticle from like a sniper gun and this random shot of a soldier. And what does Hands of Time have to do with like a soldier kind of thing? It doesn't make any freaking sense. But this is another like Akari Warriors. This is like an Akari Warriors style, like top-down run and gun shooter. You can kind of see it. And like I legit got this for $5, and it's another one that I ended up getting. Hang on a sec. God damn. I hate this particular brand of box protector. Is completely sealed. This one is never been opened, so I cannot comment if it is good or not because I've never actually played it. I should probably download a ROM of it or something to see if it's worth opening or not. But Radical Reggie swore by it, and I was like, okay, well, I'm glad that I picked up a copy when I did because I'm pretty sure this is kind of pricey now because I'd never heard of this when the Game Boy Color was relevant. So can't comment, but it looks kind of cool. Like I said, Akari Warriors-ish. Like the top-down sections from some Super C kind of thing. It looks neato. What's up, VGM Solo? It was a really cute show. This one I always wanted back in the day, but I never actually bought a copy of it until now. But this is a action RPG, I do believe, called Magination. Magination. Ah, that's clever. You guys and your word plays and double entendres and alliterations and whatever. I told you it was going to be a weird stream. I played this when it first showed up. I found this on eBay pretty decently cheap. I think I got it cheap because the box art had like labels all over. I managed to get some of it off, like especially this one that covered up part of this one right here that covered part of the name. I need to work a little harder at it. I could probably get that off if I really put my mind to it. But it played pretty well and it looks pretty rad. So I was not sad that I picked this one up. I always wanted this back in the day, like I said. I remember seeing this all the time at like the EB Games and the electronics boutiques and the GameStops and all that. So yeah, I was interested, but just never pulled the trigger until got back into collecting in 2013. So hell yeah. I need to play an action RPG this year, so maybe that'll be my action RPG that I play. A tactical game? What? Here, Hands of Time? Yeah, like I said, I can't play it. I don't know. This one I picked up because I want to say it was about a year. It might have been in 2020. I think it was in 2020. I got bored one day, and I got my bonus from work at the beginning of the year, and I was like, time to spend it on some games. And I went like looking for licensed games like you would not believe. I don't know why. I just did. And I bought 3 licensed games for this console like at the same time, and they all showed up at the same time. One of them was the Mask of Zorro. I saw this. I just typed in, I went into eBay and I just typed in Game Boy Color CIB, and I was just looking at everything that was showing up. But when I saw this, I was like, wait, what? Where were the other Zorro games that came out around the time that there was nothing for the home consoles, like nothing for the N64 or the PlayStation? What? Okay. But it's a side-scrolling beat-em-up platformer. You can't really see. They only have like these 2 teeny tiny little pictures here. But I played it when it first showed up, and it was not half bad. I mean, it's by Sunsoft, for crying out loud. And they do some pretty decent shit. At least at this point in time, they were doing some decent stuff. So, like, I was not sad that I picked this up for like $25 or something. So, yay me. Another license game. I was hoping that one of these would stand out enough. This one or the other 2 that I'm going to talk about in a little bit were good enough that I would talk about them in that month that I did nothing but license game videos last year. But sorry it didn't happen like that. Oh, Imagination? What? I don't remember that. Graphics that redefine how an RPG on the Game Boy Color system should look. More than 100 creatures and 25 Magi from the Magi Nation dual collectible card game. Oh! Eye-popping battle screens with one-of-a-kind graphics and effects. A rich and carefully crafted soundtrack of more than 30 original scores. Mind-numbingly vast and wondrous regions to explore. Yeah, I don't remember that. I don't remember cards. It's been a while. I did buy that like years and years and years ago. So this was one of the games I actually owned for this console back in the day when I originally had my Game Boy Color. And I played it, I want to say probably it was the second most played game I had for this console. I really, really liked it. And it was one of the games I was looking into getting back into my collection, like right when I got back into collecting, because I was kind of like, I need that game right now. I remember it being awesome. Looked it up, and even before the COVID, like we're talking 2013, 2014, this was still super expensive. And I was like, hey, I'm not prepared to pay this kind of price yet. I ended up picking it up at the Midwest Gaming Classic in, I think, 2018. It was the first year that they had it at the convention center. And I remember that was the year that I had this list of games that I was looking for, didn't find any of them. So I, decided to flip the script and just buy whatever I thought was interesting. And I found this for cheaper than eBay, which is why I picked it up. And that's Metal Gear Solid. Essentially, I think this one is, what is it called? Like in the franchise? It's like something Babel or something, like Ghost Babel or whatever, because I always just assumed this was a side story that didn't really have any bearing on the plot of like the series. Like this was like the VR missions thing. It's just like another little side thing for Solid Snake to be participating in. It plays like the original Metal Gear Solid, but more like the VR mission thing that came out for the PlayStation 1. It is pretty rad. I mean, like I loved it. It goes by all the same rules as Metal Gear Solid on the PS1 and all that. It's just in a 3/4 view, top-down view. So it is a fantastic game. I need to play through this again, but it won't be this year, I'll tell you that. This is the RPG year, guys. It's happening. I'm playing Phantasy Star right now. So I was super thrilled to get this back into my collection. One of my favorite games on this console. There aren't many. Non-canonical? I want to say it's not. Because it feels like it's just like this little VR mission-y thing. I don't think it has any bearing on the main plot of the franchise. Because as far as I remember, like, Metal Gear Solid 2 and what I played of 3 don't mention anything that happens in that game. So I think it's just this kind of like little subplot thing. And this I found at the exact same Midwest Gaming Classic as Metal Gear Solid. And I think it's funny that I found 2 games with metal in their title at the same convention at the same year. And this one is Metal Walker. I had never heard of this one before. Like I said, I was not really paying any attention to games coming out for this console. And I looked it up. I found this at a table, and I picked it up, and I'm looking at it, and I was just kind of like, oh, it's an RPG. My voice cracked because I'm apparently 12 years old. I'm going to start making fart sounds with my mouth pretty soon. It's an RPG like Legend of Zelda, where you're playing as this little cute robot. And it's by Capcom, so why not? So I remember I was standing right next to Church, the game grinder, when I bought this, and he was just kind of like, huh, that looks kind of cool. I'm like, well, too late, I got it. And I tried it out when I got home to make sure it worked, and pretty sure it was pretty fun. I need to put more time into it. Obviously, I have not played this very much. I just made sure it worked, and then threw it up on the shelf like any collector does. But yeah, an epic RPG adventure on the Game Boy Color. I need to get glasses. Explore the dangerous, rusted land and search for your missing father. Battle evil metal busters for upgradable weapon capsules and power-ups. So it's got a little bit of that Mega Man thing going on. Yeah. Did I get the Cajun fries? Huh? Cajun fries? The hell? What are people talking about tonight? What is happening? Had to buy this because this. So I had to get it. I had no choice in the matter. This is a moral imperative. Had to have it. And this is probably, if there is one Mortal Kombat game that stands above as the absolute worst ever made, a lot of people are like, oh, Mythology Sub-Zero or Special Forces. No, I'm sorry. You're wrong. It's Mortal Kombat 4. This is the worst port of anything, let alone a video game in general, I have ever played. It is the bottom of the bin. This is the bottom bitch of all games ever made. It is so bad on so many levels. You have no idea. It looks like somebody programmed this on their TI-99 graphing calculator. The graphics are horrendous. They look like shit. They don't look like people. They look like little stick figures almost. The controls are unresponsive. The character list is gimped. They've only got 9 characters available. I think there was 15 or something like that in the arcade. Nothing works. The only thing that's kind of decent about it is when you pull off a fatality, when you actually get the controls to register to pull off a fatality, because the fatalities, the computer would take over. And since this game was originally in 3D in the arcade, the camera would zoom in and then it would spin around the characters while the fatality was happening. It a little window pops up and there's a little movie that plays of the fatality being performed. But it's all choppy and it's only in a couple of colors and it still looks like shit. It's cool that they did that. But outside of that, this is the worst game I've ever played. If not, it's one of the top 10 worst games I've ever played. How about that? It is putrid in every way. I absolutely hate it. I picked this up off of eBay because I was like, oh shit, you have to have all the Mortal Kombat things. Never played this one back in the day. I popped it in, and I swear to God, within 5 minutes, I was like, I'm never playing this again. I made a mistake. My cup is from Five Guys. Oh, no, I did not get the Cajun fries. I got a regular, the double cheeseburger thing that they do with jalapenos and mushrooms on it. And the smallest, what is it, the little fries and this little drink. This is Sprite with cherry flavoring. And I'm pretty sure it's going to dye my tongue red. Yeah, this game sucks ass. It is horrible. I even talked about it in one of Brett Weiss's videos. Brett Weiss did what's the worst game we've ever played collaboration video, and I was in that with Adam Korlick, and it's horrible. It's horrible. Like I said, it looks like somebody made it with their graphing calculator in math class. It's that bad. I don't know. And the sound is grating. the sound effects, when you actually have sound effects, like it's just everything about it is just terrible. Like I hate it. I hate it with every fiber of my being. This is one of the other licensed games that I picked up at the same time as Mask of Zorro. A connoisseur. Ooh. I picked up The Mummy. I kind of had like a little mini goal. The moment I saw that this was available on the Game Boy Color, I need to get all the Mummy games. I think I just need one more and I have them all. I need the Mummy 3. No, I need the Mummy animated show. No, I need 2 then. I need the Mummy animated series game. I think it's on the Game Boy Advance. And I need the Mummy 3 game on the DS because it's not the same as the one that's available on the PS2. But yeah, this I picked up at the same time I picked up The Mummy Returns. 2 for 1? No, not really. Didn't know anything about it. I just know that Konami released this, and Konami also released the Mummy game on the original PlayStation. So I had high hopes. And the thing is, I didn't actually play this when it showed up. I didn't play this until maybe 2 or 3 months ago. I think it was December. Excuse me. December, when I got this game I got the hiccups out of nowhere. I got this as my backlog roulette game on the Super Enabler Brothers podcast that I do with Jason from Corpse Flood Gaming. And I actually really liked it. It is a puzzle platformer. And you play as multiple different characters, all the characters from the movie, basically. First stage, you're playing as Evie, Rachel Weisz. And you're in the library that she knocks all the bookcases down in the movie. You're in there and you're looking for 3 books, and there's a torch you can pick up. It's basically like the museum is a maze, and you have to figure out where these books are. You have to pick up all these items in order to open the door that lets you leave and get out there. I don't even think that there was enemies. It was just pitfalls that you could die by falling into, and that was it. Second stage, you're playing as Jonathan, her brother, and you're in you're in the prison, and you're trying to escape, and you have to find all these keys and stuff, and it's like a lot of trial and error because you will eventually have to restart that stage over and over again because you'll have picked things up in the wrong order that you need in order to successfully beat the stage. The next stage you're playing as Brendan Fraser's character or Jack. I can't remember what his fucking character's name is all of a sudden. Holy crap. You're playing as Brendan Fraser's character, and what were you doing? I don't remember what you were doing at his stage. I think I only played it for like 5 minutes. But it's actually pretty fun. I liked it a lot. I talked about it on the podcast, and I said, yeah, this is one of the few games that I've played for the backlog roulette that I would actually go back and play because I didn't actually beat it. It's actually pretty cool. Surprised the hell out of me that it was as fun as it was. And then you have The Mummy Returns, which is not by Konami. And this one is... You're basically just playing as Brendan Fraser's character, and it's just a side-scrolling beat-em-up platformer. And there's really no frills to it. It's just... You can actually just run through... You don't have to actually kill anything. You just run through this game, and then you'll eventually get to a boss, beat the boss, and then you just run through the next stage. It's very simple when compared to that one. That one, the original movie's game had more thought put into it. You could tell the people really liked the movie, too, because they gave each character something to do. And in this one, it's just you're playing as Brendan Fraser's character, and you're just running from left to the right, sometimes right to the left when you're running away from something. It's not that great compared to the first one. But if you're a completionist like I am, it's good to have them both. Looks like MK4 runs smoother than MK2 on the Game Boy. I don't know, dude. It plays... I would rather play Mortal Kombat 2 on the Game Boy than play that Mortal Kombat 4. It is garbage. Plays like absolute ass. This one is another one that I had no clue was available on this console. Putzing around on eBay, you find interesting things. And this is one of my favorite franchises, so I had to own it. And that is Oddworld Adventures 2. Okay, sure. I have the original Oddworld Adventures on the Game Boy. Had no clue that there was a sequel. And it plays just like any other of the original Oddworld games, where it's a side-scrolling, cinematic-style platformer like Prince of Persia or Flashback or Out of This World. We are playing as Abe, and you're trying to escape the mines again. And it is actually pretty fun. I really like these games a lot. I mean, Oddworld's one of my favorite franchises, so absolutely had to have that. No questions asked, bruh. I need to put more time into it. So, in this period in time with this console, Nintendo was doing some interesting things to try to like make the Game Boy Color do some of the things that the Nintendo 64 was doing, namely Rumble. The Nintendo 64, they got the Rumble pack with Star Fox 64. So naturally, Nintendo's like, hey, how can we adapt that technology to the Game Boy Color and have like certain games rumble when you play them? So you make this weird long ass cartridge that has a battery port. Like you put a little battery. I think it's a AAA that goes in here. And when you're playing it, the game will rumble in like this. You see this little part up here. It's like a little rumble thing that moves back and forth. I don't know what to call it, like a gasket or some sort. I don't know. But whatever. It rumbles and gives you that sensation of movement or something exploding in the game or whatever, just to make it feel a little bit more immersive. Doesn't always work all that great, but whatever. But they did use this a lot back in the day, and I do have 3 games that use this in my collection. The first one is Perfect Dark. I absolutely loved Perfect Dark on the Nintendo 64. It was one of the few Nintendo 64 games that I really enjoyed. Like I enjoyed GoldenEye as a first-person shooter from Rare for the story mode, but hated the multiplayer. Same with Perfect Dark. I did not like the multiplayer. I don't like playing multiplayer like on the Nintendo 64 just in general. But the single player for Perfect Dark I thought was one of the best first-person shooters I had played at that point in time. So naturally, when this came out for the Game Boy Color, I was like, yes, I want that, even though I know it's not going to be a first-person shooter, and it definitely was not. But it is a isometric, I don't know, it's a 3/4 view platformer, run and gun kind of game that has some stealth elements to it. And every once in a while, you have like something that where it's trying to emulate certain parts of the game, like sniping. And there's some parts where you're like using a rocket launcher in the first person kind of thing. And it's really a fun game. I mean, this, I think, translated very well to the Game Boy Color. It's just not anything like the original game in the way it plays. But it is a super fun game, and it's by Rare, so I absolutely had to have it too. This was one of those games I had back in the day for this console. Had to have it. Had to have it. And another one, this was the game that I was finding excuses to go and play my Game Boy Color while I was at work at that limousine place and like hide in the bathroom for, 15, 20 minutes so I can play this. I'm just checking these to make sure that I don't have batteries still sitting in them because I don't want them to ruin the diodes or connectors or whatever they're called. Anyway, but this is my favorite and still is my favorite game on this console. And you're going to laugh when you see what it is. You ready? Pokemon Pinball. This is, I think, where my love of video game pinball came from. Like, I liked it before because I had Midnight Madness on my dad's old computer, and I think we also had it on the 2600. And like, I always kind of liked playing it, but I never really. I mean, Pinbot on the Nintendo, the original Nintendo, yes, but I don't think I like really started going like, yes, I absolutely love this as a genre on the video game consoles until I played this. Like I was, like I said, looking for excuses to step away for 15, 20 minutes just so I could play this some more. And it's a regular pinball game, but it plays by the rules of Pokemon. So the ball for the pinball game is a Pokeball. Pokemon will show up as you go and you have to collect them. And I don't remember how you evolve them though. I think it just depends on how you play the game. But I remember playing the absolute living shit out of this. Like for hours and hours and hours. I'd come home from work and I would just sit down and play it. I don't understand it. Like I kind of didn't like the regular Pokemon. I still don't like Pokemon, standard Pokemon. Like I said, I had the blue game or the Pokemon Blue, and I played like I got that Mew or Mewtwo or whatever it was, and then I played it for maybe like 3 more times, and I was like, yeah, I don't really care about this anymore. This one, on the other hand, I played the shit out of this, and there's a sequel to this on the Game Boy Advance, which I definitely need to find, but still my all-time favorite game on this console. It is so much fun. The collection aspect of it makes it feel different from everything else that was out there. The Rumble feature works amazingly on this. Like, I cannot praise it enough. It is super fun. Star Wars. I have the Star Wars pinball game on the Switch. Yep. There was like a time of the Stern Pinball one. Oh no, just flat out Star Wars Pinball. Yeah, there was a time where Adam Koralik was saying that was going to become like one of these games that nobody bought when it first came out, and then when it gets put into moratorium, like everyone's going to want a copy, and it's going to be super expensive. So I ran out and bought a copy, and nobody still gives a shit. I bought this because Radical Reggie recommended it to me, and I thought it looks okay, but it's very generic, honestly, when you think about it. It's called S11. So he goes, oh, it's a really awesome shmup on the Game Boy Color, and it's by Sunsoft. And like I said, Sunsoft was still making good stuff at this point in time. And I bought it, and I started playing it, and I was like, this is like such a basic, this is like one step above Solar Striker on the original Game Boy. It is like the most basic shoot 'em up ever on a handheld console. Like Zarlor Mercenary and Gates of Zendikon on the Lynx play better than this. It's not to say it's bad. It's not bad. It's just like it's a very basic shmup. There's nothing to set it aside or set it apart from everything else that's out there. So when I bought it, I was just kind of like, okay, Reggie, you're stretching there a little bit, weren't you? Yeah, weren't you? I picked this one up at the Midwest Gaming Classic. I think the same one where I got Metal Gear Solid and what's it called? I just forgot. Metal Walker. And as an RPG, I might have to play this year. Maybe I'll play this instead of that other one. Yeah. It's Revelations, the Demon Slayer. This is a Shin Megami Tensei game, and I saw it at the convention, and I was like, and it was not super expensive. And I was like, oh shit, give it to me. I need it right now. So I picked it up, and I did play this for quite a bit. I was capturing footage of the games that I bought at the convention that year. I was capturing footage with my capture card, and I played this for like a good hour. And I was like, this is actually kind of rad. So it's like, it starts off like your typical RPG, but it does have a monster collection aspect to it at some point. I didn't get to that point in the story, but it was pretty rad, and I was really excited, and I was like, oh, I need to come back to this. I still haven't come back to it. But it does have a 2-player mode, which is strange. It must be when it comes to the monster collection. Maybe you can fight your monsters or something. 2-player mode, challenge your friends with the Game Link cable, and take your most powerful monsters into battle and see who's the best. Yep. Equip your warriors with over 100 types of weapons, armor, and magic, battery-backed memory. Yeah. Play an awesome color on the new Game Boy Color. This must have been one of the launcher games or something like that. I don't know. But what I played of it, I really enjoyed. I might end up playing this as another one of the RPGs I play this year. So, yeah. Atlas, yep. Here's one of those real expensive ones that I still don't have opened, and that is Revenge of the Ninja. Still sealed. This is a very hard-to-come-by game by Natsume, and it's a side-scrolling platform action, like hack and slash, and supposedly it's super awesome, but it's not opened. Ha, fooled you. This is a repro. It's from Limited Run Games. I have been looking for this game forever, and it is so flippin' expensive to get an inbox copy of this, like a legit inbox copy, that when Limited Run offered this, I was like, yeah, you know what? I don't care in this case. I'm just going to get the repro because I want to play it. That's why it's still sealed. Because I'm dumb. But like, I love games about ninjas. I love ninjas. And back in the 80s when ninja movies were the thing, I was watching every single one of them. So I absolutely had to have this in my collection. And if this was the way I was going to do it, then that was the way I was going to do it. Wait for a year and sell it for a mint. Lightsaber Samurai. Nice. See, these are 2 more that you're going to laugh at me for buying, but there's a reason behind it. So I have license. They are licensed games, so it fits my brand. It's just the licenses I don't give 2 shits about. And that is Sabrina, the animated series, Spooked, and Sabrina, the animated series, Zapped. So you're probably asking yourself, like, Chris, what the hell? Well, there is a reason that these are in my collection. And that is, yep, that's exactly what I said. These are developed by WayForward. They're probably my second favorite developer ever. I want to say it was Radical Reggie, and somebody else too, might have been Metal Jesus, was like, yeah, these games may have a crappy license, but they are fantastic games. So I ran out and picked them up. And they are, goddamn, they are like they're platformers, obviously, and they are cutesy, but they are very well made, and they are actually quite fun. You have some magic powers that you use because Sabrina, the teenage witch, but it's actually kind of neat, and it reminds me a lot of what I played of that. What's that? Wendy Every Which Way or something like that. That Way Forward did. They actually. Oh God, I can't talk. They actually kind of played similarly. Except I think in, what was it, the Wendy game, she can like walk on the ceilings and stuff. And here she can't, Sabrina can't. But for like little kids games, these are actually very well made and very fun. So I was not sad when I bought them. I was like, yeah, I'm guaranteeing that I got duped into buying 2 games for some little kids. And then I actually played them and I was like, oh, these are not half bad. I'm actually not sad that I spent the money on it. They were not expensive on top of that, so I was not mad. This one I picked up because it is a port of a game that I used to play on my dad's computer all the time. And I really liked it. And then I played this version of it, and I was just kind of like, this did not hold up. It's called Sheamus. My dad had this for his Atari 800 XL computer, and I played the crap out of it back then. It is like a puzzle. It's not a platformer. It's like a adventure puzzle game that's like top down. And you're this like, in here they make it look like he's a freaking robot. And the one that I remember playing, you're just some dude that was trying to break into a building or something like that and get like some documents or whatever. So you can see down there, it's like a top down adventure game. It plays like crap. Like it doesn't. All the memories that I have of playing Sheamus on my dad's computer, like they all came crashing down when I played this. I was like, was it this bad when I played it as a kid and I just didn't know any better? I don't know. But when I was playing this, I was like, wow, this looks like, it even looks like the Atari game. If you look at the graphics here, they look just like they did on my dad's Atari. Like they did nothing to upgrade it at all. And this came out in 1990, maybe even 2000. 1998, I think that says. And the game that I played came out like in 1982 or 1983. And they did nothing to improve the graphics. That's kind of shitty. So I was really excited to get this back into my collection because I was like, I remember playing that all the time when I saw it on eBay, and then it shows up and I'm like, yikes. Made a mistake. But then I got this heavy hitter right here, guys, and it's still sealed too. I got that Shantae. Shantae, baby. Yeah, it's limited run. Another really super expensive game. I think this game goes for like over $2,000 now if it's still in the box. No, I will not. Even if I won the lottery, I would not be paying $2,000 just to own a copy of this. So I pretty much said if I'm ever going to own a copy of this in my collection, it's going to have to be in this form. It's the repro. But it's one of the first games I remember WayForward doing back in the day. This game got no love when it first came out. It came out like, I think at the end of the Game Boy Color's lifespan, so nobody paid it any attention. And then it just became this like instant classic once people discovered it in like the 2010s. And now all of a sudden it's like this highly sought after collectible. But it's a side-scrolling platformer, a little bit of a beat 'em up because Shantae the genie uses her hair as like a whip to attack. And it's really well made and really fun. I did download a digital copy of this to my 3DS so I could play it back in the day. Back when I first got my 3DS, I wanted to be able to play it. I knew I was never going to be able to afford it back then either. But I really enjoyed what I played of it. And then when Limited Run offered this reproduction copy, I pretty much said that's the only way it's going to happen. So let's just do it now and rip that Band-Aid off. So I have not opened this one either, but I have played this game, so I can comment that it is actually very fun. The original Shantae. She is now video game royalty. $2,500. Fuck that. Right in the ear. Power Quest. I've never actually heard of that. This one is another repro, but it's not a repro because it was an expensive game that I can't afford. Because this never came out in the US. This is a reproduction of a Japanese game we never got. And you'll understand when you see what it is because it is Star Ocean Blue Sphere. Yeah, there was a Star Ocean game that came out on the Game Boy Color, but it just never came out in the US. It came out in Japan only, if I remember correctly. And I got this from my pals at Fishy Faced Games. These guys do fantastic reproduction work. The guy's been on like hiatus for like a year, but he's just recently on Instagram started showing signs of life again. Like he's like, oh, I'm prepping for some stuff. I was like, yeah, bring it on, bitch. I will buy all of it. So the game, well, everything that Fishy Face does usually comes with a stand of some sort because he thinks that people actually want to display the cartridge on a shelf for some reason, just the cartridge, no cover or anything. The loose cartridge, you stick it on this thing and display it. No, thank you. No, I'm not crazy. You got that thing gathering dust. Hail to the no. I gotta get whatever. Let's see here. It also comes with a full color manual, which one of the reasons why I love Fishy Face games. They make these manuals that look just like the original ones. It's awesome. And it has the cartridge, and it came in a protective case too, which I love. And the cartridge itself, open up, you can tell how new this one is like this translucent blue, which is pretty awesome. So when I saw that, I got this on sale. What was the other game that I got? Oh, was it Just Breed? Oh my God, what the fuck? Come on, close. I went on Fishy Face's website and they were having like some sort of a sale. I don't remember why. Maybe it was like Overstock or something. And everything was like 50% off or something like that. And they were selling this and Just Breed on the NES, which is another game we never got in the US, for half off. So I bought both of them at the same time because I was like, yeah, why not? I can get 2 games for the price of one normally, because these are normally pretty expensive reproductions. Like these go for like $80 sometimes. So to get like 2 of them for like $60, $70, I was like, yeah, okay. Awesome. Need to play it. It looks pretty rad. I know Radical Reggie had played this one and he thought it was fantastic. I think he got his repro through somebody else. But this, I think, is a super high quality one, so I'm glad that I picked this one up. And the artwork on the front is fantastic. Absolutely love that. It's oceany. Ooh. And because got to have all the Star Wars things, I have all of the Star Wars games that are available on the Game Boy Color, and only one of them is good. No, this one's okay. One of them is pretty good. One of them is poop, and the other one is like, it's all right. This is the all right one. And that is Star Wars Episode 1, Obi-Wan's Adventure. This is one that I did not know existed until I started doing research into it when I got back into collecting in 2013. I found this on eBay, and I was like, wow, how did I not know that this Star Wars game existed? I don't know. But it's an isometric hack and slash beat 'em up where you're playing specifically as Obi-Wan, playing through all of the events of Episode 1 and some stuff before and some stuff after. It's a decent game. It's just that Obi-Wan is so freaking tiny that it kind of gets hard to see what's going on sometimes. And you can get crowded too. It is a pretty fun game. I liked what I played of it. I did not play through it completely, but it's decent. I liked it. There's definitely better ones available on the Game Boy Advance, but I was not sad to own that one. This is the one I really like. And it's another one that had the Rumble feature, and that is Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. Racer got ported to every single thing that they possibly could, except for PlayStation 1. You got it on the Dreamcast, you got it on the N64, and we got it here. And the problem with this one, well, it's not a problem. It's just the thing about this one is can't do 3D graphics because the one on the Dreamcast and the one on the N64 is behind the car, and it's like a 3D racing game. Well, you can't do that on the Game Boy Color. Probably make it melt. So it's a top-down racing game. But it controls extremely well. I remember when I picked this one up, I think it was when I did the video. I did those videos about like the good and the bad Star Wars games, and I talked about this in one of them. I think I said this one was like, did I say this one was bad? I think I might have said this one was bad. It's not that it's bad. I think in that all the ones that I called bad in that video, it was just the ones that I thought were mediocre. This one's decent. But it's pretty fun. It controls really well. It's just that the view is very limited. Like you don't have a lot of time to react to things because it's so zoomed in. If it was pulled back a little bit more and you got more of a view of the track, I think it would have been a lot better. But it is a fun game, especially with the Rumble feature. It's pretty cool. But definitely the 3D versions are the way to go. What's up, Neo Genesis? I know they totally should have given Android Assault to the Game Boy Color. I would have bought 2 copies of it. And I would have held one off just in case I wanted to sell it down the line like Earthbound. What's up? YouTube is telling you that you need to watch my Retro Freak unboxing video from 6 years ago. What do you think? Should I do it? I'd say do it. It's actually one of the top watched videos on my channel. Surprisingly, it's that and the one where I talk about 3D Blu-rays that you can watch on the PlayStation VR. And my Mad Max review. And my Mad Max rant review and my Dragon Spirit review that I look at some of the first things I ever did on the channel. But the one that I think is like poo-poo on this a Star Wars game that's poo on this console is Star Wars Yoda Stories. This is not good. This was like a Windows game that came out on PC, and it was like it would only play like in a tiny little window. You couldn't buff it up to the full-size screen. It was always like in this tiny little window. And I think it was just meant to be like some little casual thing that you can play like for a couple of minutes at a time kind of thing. So naturally, let's put that on the Game Boy Color and charge $50 for it. It's not good. You play as Luke, and I think originally it was just like Luke on Dagobah on the PC one, but here you've got stuff on Hoth, you've got stuff on Endor and stuff like that. And Luke is like this little super deformed guy, and you just go around doing random shit. So you have a little lightsaber that goes pew. Pew. It is not fun. It is pretty bad. Even John Riggs was on my channel early on talking about how much he thought this game was poo-poo, because I did a bad license games video, and he was one of the guests that was on that collaboration. And yeah, he shat all over this one too. And the thing was, I had just ordered this when I was making that video. So I bought a copy of this on eBay because I was trying to get all the Star Wars things. And then he sent me his video for the collaboration, and I watched it, and I was like, oh, well, too late. And I told him so too. I was like, I just bought that fucking game too. And he's like, yeah, it's rough. And it is. It's not fun. This was one of the games that I originally had on the Game Boy, the Game Boy Color. I think this was the first game that I bought, to be completely honest. And I played this one a lot because why wouldn't you? It's a classic game. And that's Super Mario Brothers Deluxe. This is the original Super Mario Brothers game. It's just been tweaked a little bit in order to give it a couple of extra modes. It's got a couple of the add-ons that were in Mario Brothers 2 in Japan that we know as the Lost Levels, or some of that stuff mixed in here too. There's a couple of extra things going on, like race head-to-head with a friend in versus mode using the link cable, or try single-player mode, you versus Abu. Customize and print out pictures, awards, banners, and much more with the Game Boy printer sold separately. Over 100 items in all. All the color speed and action of the original NES Super Mario Brothers is in a handheld format. Relive the old adventure while battling through new ones. But my issue that I had with it back in the day, it's a minor issue, but it's a little zoomed in compared to the original NES game. So reaction times are shortened because now you don't have like this field of vision. Like when you're running, you're fucked. So you kind of creep through the stages because the view is so zoomed in. But if I remember correctly, you can play as Luigi. Like you get the choice of playing as Mario or Luigi at the start, I think. I can't be positive, but I think that was one of the things. But yeah, the first game I ever bought for this console when I got it. 3D Blu-rays on the PSVR are so much fun. I was actually considering selling a bunch of my 3D Blu-rays to make room for my 4Ks, but I'm rethinking that now. Picked this one up when I was out with Rocket Sauce in 2021 when I visited him in Wisconsin. We went to Freak Toys, and I saw this sitting in the case, and I'm like, why does that look freaking familiar to me? Turns out this was one of the games that I actually owned for this console back in the day. And it's Tomb Raider Curse of the Sword. And it's not a 3D Tomb Raider game. It is a side-scrolling platformer where you're playing as Lara Croft. And it's actually pretty decent. The characters are really, really well animated, and they're very large pixels, or large sprites. And there's a couple of different modes, like you have like the underwater stuff here. But it's actually a pretty fun Tomb Raider game. It is a little clunky because it is on the Game Boy Color, let's be honest. But it's not bad. It's not bad at all. And I remember... Like, I totally had forgotten. Like, when I saw it in that case at Freak Toys, I'm like, why does that look so familiar to me? Did I own that? And I couldn't remember. And then, like, the more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, I did have that. I just don't think I played it very much because Metal Gear Solid was the one that was taking up all my time. But it's a pretty fun game. Can't go wrong. And the last game I'm going to talk about tonight, like I said, this is going to be a real short stream, guys, is one that I always wanted, and I never actually pulled the trigger on it. And turns out this is like a completely awesome game that even Stop Skeletons from Fighting was bragging about this game in one video. It was like, I don't think it was specifically about Game Boy Color games, Stop Skeletons from Fighting's video. It was like games that like push the limits of like consoles or whatever, and it was warlocked. This is like playing Warcraft on the Game Boy Color. It is a strategy game. And like nothing had been put on this console like this before. And like the thing is, like, how do you control something like this if you're normally using like a keyboard and a mouse, and all you have is like two buttons on the Game Boy Color and the directional pad? And apparently they did a great job, because he talked about how he absolutely loves this game, and he still loves this game to this day. But yeah, what does it say? Collect and trade. What is that? Wounded? Oh, collect and trade wizards. Rescue dozens of unique wizards and add them to your army. Trade with friends to collect them all. So it's got that collection aspect. Battle a friend. Go head-to-head using the Game Link cable. Battle in real time. Manage resources. Command entire armies and control powerful wizards. And the first ever real-time strategy game for the Game Boy Color. And like I said, I remember seeing this all the time at like the stores where I was getting my games, like EB Games and all that. Just never pulled the trigger. I wished I did, because I probably would have played this quite a bit. I absolutely am sad and mad at myself for not doing that. But I was thrilled that I was able to add it back to my collection, or add it into my collection when I got back in 2013. I cannot talk. Woo! God damn. Anyway, I need a drink. Throat's going dry. Those games were dusty. Anyway, so that's it for this stream. Like I said, it was going to be short. I only have like 30-some games for this console. I'll be back next week, probably with Dreamcast, I want to say. Dreamcast is probably the next console I'm going to talk about. And that's going to be another multi-parter, because I have every single Dreamcast game that's out there for the US consoles, plus some aftermarket stuff. So keep an eye out for that next Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Central. Yeah. Tomorrow I have a new short coming out. It's another one of those games you must own or add to your collection type of things. And that's going to be awesome. And then next Friday is the next stream in my Dungeons & Dragons campaign, Tides of Flame, that Mondane is a part of. So go over to my Twitch channel if you're into that kind of thing, and follow me. It's twitch.tv/theoldassretrogamer. We'll probably be starting around 8:30 p.m. Central there too. So keep an eye out for that. I'll bring it up next Thursday also. So thank you, everybody, for coming and hanging out with me tonight. Like I said, short stream, but whatever. I can actually go and play some more Phantasy Star. Yeah, I'm actually really enjoying that, playing the Sega Ages version on my Switch. So hell yeah. So I will talk to you all next week, everybody. Have a good night. Stay safe. Chris, the old ass retro gamer, out. Twitch.tv/theoldassretrogamer.